Hello, Taylor Elwood, your mad scientist and magical experimenter, and at magicalexperiments.com. So lately, I've been working on two different books. I'm working on Pop Culture Magic Systems, which is my book on how to create and develop a pop culture magic system. And it's going to go hand in hand with the Pop Culture Magic Foundations class I'm offering later this summer. And then the other thing I'm working on is the Alchemy of Life book. The Alchemy of Life book is about how to work with neurotransmitters, the bacteria, the hormones, basically all of the neurochemistry and life within your body, how to work with it on a conscious level. One of the things that I'm doing right now is I am reading and doing research. So I'm reading a book called Allies and Enemies, How the World Depends on Bacteria. Now, as you're probably going to be able to tell, this book has nothing to do with magic on an overt level. In fact, I doubt that I suspect the author doesn't practice magic. If she does, hey, great, nice to meet you. But chances are she probably doesn't. So you might wonder, well, why would you read a book that doesn't have anything to do with magic if you're writing a book on magic? Well, what it does have to do with is bacteria. And so why am I reading it? Well, I'm reading it because I'm doing research. I'm finding out what other people have to say about something that I'm working with magically. Now again, you might say, well, okay, that's great, but you're reading a book from someone who doesn't practice magic, and they're talking about bacteria, and you're working with bacteria. Aren't your experiences enough? My answer to that is, well, yeah, my experiences are helpful, but they're subjective. Whereas this person who's a biologist, what she's doing is she's presenting her discipline. The knowledge, the information they have, is it complete? Probably not. I mean, there's probably things that they don't know about bacteria. But what it does is it gives me some further information to work with. It tells me more about how bacteria work in the body. And that's important because if I'm going to do magical work with bacteria or neurotransmitters or anything else like that, I think that if I do some research, it's going to help me develop a targeted approach that produces some specific results for me that I'm looking for to manifest. It's going to help me to work with the bacteria in a way that's going to help, for example, with digestion or waste removal or whatever else. So my point in really bringing all this up is that when you practice magic, it's important not to just read books on magic. You need to read other books. You need to broaden your horizons. In the last week's video, I was talking about how you could derive a technique from pop culture. And again, that's stepping outside of the overt aspect of magic. But there, a lot of times you'll still find that, okay, people are writing about magic. It's pop culture magic. It's Hollywood magic. It's whatever. So, it may not be in some ways realistic, but it's still magic. But reading this, I'm not reading about magic. I'm reading about bacteria. And yet, what I read in this book is going to help me develop and refine my techniques for working with bacteria on a magical level. And if I didn't read this, I could take some guesses, but I wouldn't necessarily have all the information that I could use. I find that sometimes what frustrates me on occasion with what I see out there in the occult world is the tendency to not necessarily do the best type of research, to be rigorous in what it is that you're trying to learn about. I know for myself that in doing all the research that I do, it really helps me to understand what it is that I'm working with. It helps me to understand the world in a way as well. I get to explore more of the world. There is really an importance of balancing your experience and balancing your magical background with balancing it with information from other backgrounds, taking the time to learn things outside of what you know, outside of your comfort zone, really. I'm not a biologist, I never will be. But in taking the time to learn about what a biologist has to say about bacteria, it's helping me to understand how I can work with bacteria on a magical level. It's helping me to recognize what I can do to go in prepared. And at a certain point, no matter how prepared I am, the reality is I'm just going to go and have an experience, and there may be some things that I discover that this person who wrote the book never even thought of. or maybe not. Who knows? The important thing is, though, is that I'm still taking the time to find out what other people have to say. I think that if you're really serious about developing your magical skills, especially if you're serious about doing magical experimentation, you want to be able to go outside of the usual box or the usual playground, the usual sandbox, and find out what is actually out there. What else can inform your approach to magic? You're not going to agree with all of it. Some of it you're going to find to be less than useful, but it's still going to help you keep an open mind. And really, if you want to be a magical experimenter, you have to have an open mind. Otherwise, you can join the many, many occultists that are not open-minded at all because they think they know everything there is to know about magic. I don't know about you, but I don't have time or, frankly, a use for people like that because what they think they know is honestly outweighed by how much they don't know. I know what I don't know, and I'm willing to learn about it because I know it will help me improve myself as a magician and as a person. And that's the attitude we need to have when we're going to be magical experimenters. We need to look at what we can do to improve ourselves. We need to be open to discovering what is out there in the world that can teach us and help us to become better people. Alright, so you have any comments about doing research or taking the time to learn something outside of the usual magical field, leave it below. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, please do so over here by clicking on the red T. Thanks so much and take care.